in summary, we can say few points, and I have created a whiteboard animation for you. So these are the basic few points on electromagnetic induction. Now, electromagnetic induction can be used in different applications, starting from storing our data in the form of magnetizing recording media like videotapes, hard disks, using these electromagnets. We can use this theory of electromagnetic induction for electric generators to produce electrical outputs. We can have magnetic breaks, uh, in which when a strong magnet is dropped into a conducting pipe, it falls very slowly due to the secondary magnetic field induced by its motion, like this. This is called magnetic break. We have metal detectors created on this principle. We have magnetic identification strips, these things on the ATM cards. Smart lights are nowadays used in smart cities. Musical instrument like theremin, speakers, microphones, and nowadays magnetic navigation trains are created on the basic principle of electromagnetic induction. So we have a lot of applications of electromagnetic induction, and with your coming days in your course subject, you will learn more about it. So in electromagnetic induction, one thing we have learned that when flux changes, then EMF is produced. In other words, flux is changing means actually magnetic field is changing, because we know flux can be changed in two ways, either changing the magnetic field or changing the cross section area. But as we know that it is very difficult to change the cross section area, so it is always easier to change the magnetic field. That means we, in other words, can say change in magnetic field produce EMF. And what is EMF? EMF means electrical energy actually. That means electrical field. So basically, if you can change magnetic field with time, you can create electric field. At the beginning of this lecture, I told you that people thought there may be some connection between this electric and magnetic fields. Now, after the discovery of electromagnetic induction, it is now quite apparent that electric field and magnetic field are related with each other. And here we observe that if magnetic field is changed with time, then it can produce electric field. Now we want to get the mathematical form of it. For that, let us consider a closed loop of any shape. We are considering this closed loop of any arbitrary shape, and it encloses the surface area S. That means total area within this curve is S. And B is the magnetic flux density. Magnetic flux density in this neighborhood of this loop. And we have assumed that this is uniform in nature. We observe that magnitude and direction of the magnetic field B is constant throughout this area. To avoid any complexity, we are assuming it. Now, if we consider a small area here, this is a small area, this is a small area, and the elemental area is ds. And we know that area is a vector quantity. This elemental area can be a vector quantity whose magnitude is given by this small area, and direction is a unit vector perpendicular to that area. That is the direction of this ds. Now what we want to find out what is the amount of flux, what is the amount of magnetic flux passing through this area. That means, for our understanding, I am drawing it here again. Say this is the area. This is the area. This is the area. Now suppose this is the direction of magnetic field. This is the direction of magnetic field. That means magnetic lines of induction are going in this direction. And say this is the direction of the area vector. So this is the direction of ds. For simplicity, I am showing it in this way. And the angle between B and ds is say theta. The angle between the two directions is theta. Now, how will you define magnetic flux? Remember, magnetic flux is defined as the number of lines passing through an area where the area is held perpendicular to the lines. That means, in simple words, we have to count the number of lines which are passing through this area in the direction of ds. That means, what is the number of lines passing through the area in the direction of ds? That means, in simple words, what is B? B is the number of lines per unit area. B is the number of lines per unit area. That is how magnetic flux density is defined. That's why we call it magnetic flux density, because we can estimate it by measuring the number of lines per unit area. So B is the number of lines per unit area, and what we require? Number of lines. So we want the portion of B which are in the direction of ds. What is the portion of B? What is the portion of B which is in the direction of ds? Portion of B in the direction of ds is B cos theta. This is the portion of B which are in the direction of ds. And what is this B cos theta? This is the number of lines. This is the number of lines per unit area in the direction of ds. B is the number of lines per unit area. But B cos theta is the number of lines per unit area in the direction of ds. So if we multiply it with ds, what we get? Total number of lines passing through this area in the direction of ds. Total number of lines passing through this area in the direction of ds. So this is our flux. So this is our flux, say d phi b. So again, B is the magnetic flux density. That means number of magnetic field lines per unit area. Now we require the number of lines passing through the small area ds in the direction of ds. That means how many lines are passing through this area in this direction. In this direction, how many lines are passing through this area? That we require. So how will you estimate it? From B, we can find out what is the portion of B in the direction of ds. That is B cos theta, because the angle between B and ds is theta. So portion of B in the direction of ds is B cos theta. If I multiply it with ds, then we get the total number of lines passing through this area in the direction of ds, which is nothing but the flux passing through this or linked with this small area. So d phi b, the amount of flux linked with this small area, is B cos theta into ds. That is B into ds cos theta, or this can be written as B dot ds, isn't it? A dot B means A into B into cos theta. So B dot ds means B into ds into cos theta. That's what we have. Therefore, the magnetic flux linked to the small area ds is B dot ds. Thus the flux through the entire surface. What is the entire surface? S. So what will be the total flux through the whole surface? We just integrate it. So this is the small flux passing through the small area ds. So if we want the total flux through the whole area, we will integrate it over the total surfaces. That will give us the total flux. So flux can be written in terms of magnetic field density like this. because our objective is to directly connect electric field and magnetic field, not to the via process. Because in the electromagnetic induction, we are stating that due to change in flux, EMF is produced. Yes, we know the change in flux occurs due to change in magnetic field, and EMF is produced means we have some electric field. So electric field and magnetic field is connected, but we want a direct connection. And that's why flux is written in terms of magnetic field itself first. Now, according to Faraday's law or Newman's law, whatever you say, the induced EMF E is minus rate of change of flux. Okay, so we can write it, but this phi B is given by this. Now, what about the electric field associated with the induced EMF? If you remember your class 12 electrostatics, as the magnetic flux is changing, here we get an electric field which is induced around the loop. So if we assume this is that since an EMF is induced and EMF is induced, somehow an electric field is generated, but we need to connect this EMF with this electric field. How will you connect it? It is known that in electrostatics that line integral of the electric field gives the induced EMF. Line integral means if we consider a small elemental length dl, suppose we are starting from this point, the whole loop, if we consider, that means we consider that this is the direction of E, this is the direction of dl at any point. So we can find out a small EMF as E dot dl, and we use the process at each and every point. That means at each and every point we measure E dot dl and then add all these things. That means if we start from this point, go along this direction and come back to this point, that means whole circuit is completed. Then within this closed circuit, E dot dl, this closed integral E dot dl gives you the total EMF produced. So whenever there is an EMF in the circuit and electric field is associated with it, and that relation between the EMF and that electric field can be given by this. EMF is nothing but the closed integral of E dot dl, where dl is the elemental length, line element we say. That means the small length of the loop. Direction will be the direction of dl depends on the direction of the loop. So this is dl here, whereas in this point, this will be the dl. The length is very, very small as considered. So if we can estimate E dot dl at each and every point of the loop, then within this closed integral, E dot dl gives us the EMF. So EMF is related with electric field by this formula. So you observe now we have direct relation between electric field and EMF and magnetic field and flux. So now we can use the Faraday's law, this law. So instead of E, we can put closed integral E dot dl. So instead of E, we are writing closed integral E dot dl minus ddt of flux. Total flux is the integration over the surface is B dot ds. So this is our integral form of Faraday's law. This is the integral form of Faraday's law. And you observe here, in this integral form, we have direct relation between electric field and magnetic field. And what we observe that if magnetic field is changed, ddt is there. If magnetic field is changed, electric field is produced. So rate of change of magnetic field can produce electric field. So this is the integral form of Faraday's law. But when we use the Faraday's law so many times, writing or using integral form is somehow complicated. So it is always preferable if we can use the differential form. So how will you find out the differential form of Faraday's law? When differentiation is used instead of integration. Now, what we observe here that on the right side, ddt is operating on this whole thing. This is our flux. This whole thing is actually the flux. And we know flux can be changed by two processes. Either magnetic field itself can be changed. If the magnetic field is changed, flux is changed. Because how flux is defined? The number of lines of induction passing through an area where the area is held perpendicular to the lines. Number of lines depends on B. So you can change B, flux will be changed. In fact, you can change the area ds, then also flux will change. So flux can be changed in two ways, by changing B or changing ds. So if we put this ddt inside the integration, if I put ddt inside the integration, since there will be two quantities now, B and ds, that means area and magnetic field, it will be partial differentiation. That means within the integration, it will be, if magnetic field is changed, then it is, you can write it in this way. If we say that area remains constant and magnetic field changes, and due to that flux changes, then we can write it in this way. Or we can say that B remains fixed, but the area is changed. That means we can say this one. So this is the two ways flux can be changed. These are the two ways by which you can change the flux. That means in terms of mathematics, if ddt is placed within the integration, it will look like this. As simple as that. Physically, it means either magnetic field can be changed or cross-section area can be changed. In both ways, flux is changed. Now, it is very difficult to change the cross-section area. Cross-section area is changed means you need to change the area of the loop, and it is very difficult. You understand during the process, if you want to change the area, it will be very difficult. Rather, changing magnetic field is easier process. Like we have done that, if we move the magnet towards the coil or away from the coil, or move the coil towards the magnet or away from it, or by so many processes, we can change the magnetic field easily. Magnetic field change is much more easier. So what we'll do, we'll say that we'll change the flux by changing the magnetic field only. That means this is 0. Area is not changed. Rate of change of area with time is 0. So we have only one change. That means we can write left hand side as it is minus only this portion. Only this portion I have written. Because we have assumed that flux is changed by changing magnetic field only. So done. Now we have written it. We had the problem with this ddt. Now ddt is placed inside the integration, but still we have a problem. We observe left hand side is line integration and right hand side is surface integration. So we cannot compare them, because one side is line integration, that is single integration. Right side is surface integration. That means there are two integrations here. How can we compare them? And I told you, for that situations we have our two theory: divergence law and Stokes law. Divergence law is used when we want to compare between surface and volume integration, and Stokes law is used whenever we compare the line integration with surface integration. So here we'll use Stokes law. So if we use Stokes law, then instead of integration E dot dl, we can write curl E dot ds. If you remember Stokes theorem, A dot dl can be written as curl A dot ds over the integration S. That's how Stokes law can be used. So here, if we use Stokes law on the left hand side only, then instead of line integration, we can get the surface integration. Now both sides is in terms of surface integration. So now we can compare them. So both sides is in surface integration form. So in both sides we have this dot ds. So we can take common. Dot ds can be taken common. So we have curl E plus this negative symbol. So we have plus del b del t dot ds equal to 0. That means either this whole thing is 0 or area is 0. But we cannot put area 0. Therefore, the quantity within bracket must be 0. That means curl E equals to minus del b del t. That is called the differential form of Faraday's law. It's much more slick and easy to use. And it also tells us that rate of change of magnetic field produces electric field. Rate of change of magnetic field can produce electric field. So this is our differential form of Faraday's law. So we can have either of these two forms, integral form of Faraday's law or differential form of Faraday's law. But both tells us one thing, that rate of change of magnetic field can produce electric field.